this is Dax.
This is United Electric and Welding. Did you call and request an estimate?
Yes, my wife called in last Thursday at noon.
Voice sample recognized. Passphrase accepted. Go secure.
Secure.
Stand by for control.
Good afternoon, Agent Dax.
It's morning here, Control, but I appreciate the pleasantries. What do you have for me?
We have a new lead on the international art thief for hire, known as Le Breton, and we want you to investigate, Agent. He was last seen in Russia, where he was picked up on a security camera outside of the Faberge Museum in St. Petersburg.
Do we know what he's after? Or perhaps who hired him?
We have nothing on either question, Agent, which is why we came to you. The prevailing theory of our think tank is that he is there for the Imperial eggs which are on display on the second floor of the museum in the Blue Room.
What is the likelihood he's just playing tourist? The Russian museum is less than a half mile away on foot, and is full of art that is likely more valuable.
The Russian museum is hosting a large and highly public gala on Saturday, where much of Russia's elite will be in attendance, along with a very heavy security presence. So much so that it would be very overwhelming on the local establishment to be able to handle emergency calls of the surrounding area due to lack of personnel. We believe he's going to use the gala as his cover and will go in sometime after dark.
Seems flimsy to me. I've seen the movie Octopussy before. They don't seem all that special.
Don't let their appearance fool you, Agent Dax. The eggs in the museum's collection are worth much more today than the original $100 million the collection was purchased for. If Le Breton has the right buyer.
Disposition of Le Breton once intercepted.
Your call, Agent Dax. If you can get information on his buyer or their organization, then do try to get it from him. But know that you are naked on this one. There is no backup available. There is a safe house available with an exploitation identity if you are burned, but be sure to sanitize if required before you make your way out of Russia.
Understood, Control. Bona fides and travel details?
You will be using the alias Rabbit Chapman on this one. The cobbler has already sent a courier to your live drop with your new passport. You are set for business class seat on BA Flight 7344 this evening, and will be staying at the Wynwood Hotel, room 247, which is just blocks from the museum. All other relevant historical information has been embedded into episode 18 of the Road Tripping podcast, so be sure to listen in full. Oh, and Agent Dax, regular reporting is required this time. Let's not repeat the unfortunate issues related to your time in Tel Aviv.
Copy, Control. Dax out.
Thanks for doing business with United Electric and Welding, Mr. Dax. Have a lovely day.
Hey, Road Trippers! Welcome to another episode of the Road Tripping Podcast. I'm your host, Dean Ward.
And I am your host, Molly Malloy. As always, it's great to have you tuning in.
If this is your first episode, then welcome. If it's not your first episode, then welcome back. Each week, Molly and I take a drive along the information superhighway to find topics that we find interesting, obscure, funny, or downright bizarre, and then bring them to the show to share with you, our listeners, all in the hopes that we can make your commute suck just a little less.
You can find all previous episodes of the Road Tripping Podcast for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and now even our own app, which is available in the Google Play Store. To stream or download our show on your mobile device, start by opening your favorite app and typing the Road Tripping Podcast, that's tripping with a G, into the search bar. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to our feed so you'll have access to all of our previous shows, as well as all of the future goodness we're planning on bringing your way. If you have any difficulty in finding us, Then check out our homepage at theroadtrippingpodcast.com/subscribe for a list of directories that, once clicked, will take you straight to our feed on that directory.
Hold on tight, as today we're taking you back in time to the Tsarist Russian Empire in the Easter Sunday of 1885. The empire is currently being ruled by Tsar Alexander Alexandrovich Romanov III, a member of one of the richest families to have ever lived. Think Jeff Bezos pre-divorce, and then double that. Rough estimates put the Tsar's wealth to have been around $300 billion US in today's money. As we arrive, you need to know that the Tsar and his people were Orthodox Christians and have just completed the long fast of Lent, having had no meat, milk, butter, or eggs for the last 7 weeks. So they're ready to celebrate the conclusion of the Holy Week. Besides the exchange of ritual greetings and acknowledgments of one another's faith, there's also the symbolic exchange of eggs, which is meant to represent both new life and the emergence of Jesus from the tomb upon his resurrection that everyone participates in. The Tsar was no exception. Though the Tsar couldn't be seen to give his Czarina a mere normal egg, no, that would simply not do, especially as he was obscenely wealthy. So on this particular Easter Sunday, he presented her with an unexciting white enameled egg, about 2.5 inches high, roughly the size and shape of a duck's egg, but with a gold band around the center. When the Empress opened the lid, she discovered that it was not at all what it seemed. Nestled inside was a perfect yolk made of gold, and within the yolk was a golden hen, sitting on a nest of golden straw, and inside the hen was a diamond miniature of the Imperial crown, which concealed a tiny ruby pendant. What she had just experienced was the unveiling of the first egg made by Carl Faberge for the Imperial Russian court.
Peter Carl Faberge, also known as Carl Gustavich Faberge, was born on May 30th, 1846, and came from a long line of jewelers and craftsmen. His ancestors were skilled craftsmen who had fled France due to the religious persecution of their Protestant faith by the Roman Catholic king Louis XIV in 1685, eventually settling in present-day Estonia, and became Russian citizens. By tradition of the time, and as Carl was the oldest son, he was to follow in his father's profession of jeweler and goldsmith. Luckily, by the time he was 14 years old, Carl had shown promising skill while working in his father's jewelry business. Seeing his aptitude for the work as a way forward for his son and his business, Carl's father retired from directly running the family business and then moved the family to Dresden, Germany, approximately 1,500 kilometers or 932 miles away, to start Carl's schooling, leaving the business in his hands of his partner, Hiskas Pendon. Carl had been attending German St. Anne Gymnasium in St. Petersburg, but with this move, he was first sent to a trade school to learn the basics of running a business, and then to school at Dresden Arts and Crafts School. He was granted tuition to take a tour of Europe that gave Carl the opportunity to visit jewelers in England, Italy, and Paris, where he could see and study works by newcomers such as Cartier. In Paris, Carl spent time at Chalasse Commercial College as well. He did eventually take up a short apprenticeship with a goldsmith in Frankfurt to get some hands-on training from the master he was working for, but not as an employee might, but as a business owner. His father wanted him to eventually take over the business he left behind in St. Petersburg, which he did in 1864, still partnering with Pendon until Pendon's death in 1882, when he took over full responsibility for running the company. In 1874, Carl married his cousin, Augusta Jacobs, the daughter of a cabinet maker. 3 sons followed in quick succession, born between 1874 and 1877, Eugene, Agathon, and Alexander. A 4th son, Nicholas, died at age 2 in 1883, and a 5th and last son, again called Nicholas, was born the following year.
The Gustave Faberge Company was well established by the time of Pendon's death, with 20 employees, but under Carl's direction became more popular to the lower level of Russian aristocracy. Within a year, though, That changed as the company had gained enough notoriety that it had come to the attention of the Imperial family, who purchased from Carl a pair of cufflinks with the images of cicadas, which, according to ancient Greek belief, bring luck to the wearer. This may seem a small purchase, but it was this purchase that led to many, many more, and to the commission of the now infamous eggs. The original commission of the first egg, the one I previously described earlier, which is also known as the hen egg, was created on the Tsar's wish for simple, but suitable for his wife's love of the ostentatious. He wanted an Easter egg that would both surprise and delight his wife, while also taking her mind off affairs of state. The brilliance of Faberge's creation of that first egg is said to be where he took his inspiration. You see, it was not an original design, but a copy of one that the Czarina would have recognized from her childhood in Denmark. The Danish royal collection contains what must have been Faberge's inspiration, an egg dating to the early 18th century, which is made of ivory rather than the enamel that Faberge used, and for its final surprise, a ring was hidden inside rather than a pendant. It would have reminded the Czarina of simpler times and of her childhood homeland. It must have been exceptionally well received, too, because 6 weeks later, Carl was granted the very sought-after official title of supplier to the imperial court. The very next year, the Tsar placed an order for another egg, though, unlike the hen egg, either it did not survive the passage of time, or it is in some private collection somewhere, so we only have the written description. The archives describe the result as a golden hen, set with rose-cut diamonds, holding a sapphire egg in its beak above a gold and diamond basket. At the time, this egg cost the Tsar just under 3,000 rubles, or about $33,000 today, which may not seem that much today, but consider, the average citizen was making less than 2 rubles a week. This egg must have also been accepted well by the Czarina, as in 1857, the Tsar once again placed an order with Faberge, starting a tradition. The Tsar gradually gave Faberge the complete freedom on the designs, which grew more and more elaborate every year. That freedom resulted in a finished product that the Tsar knew nothing about until it was presented, but lived up to expectations. The only guidance given to Faberge was that each one should be egg-shaped, have a unique design, and should contain a surprise. We will continue with more about Faberge and his eggs right after these words.
More leads, less effort. Sounds good, right? Social Beat offers social media management tools, training, and teams to help you with content creations, hosting, recycling, and more. Automatically post on all major networks. Organize your content into categories for the best content mix. Effortlessly repost your evergreen content for maximum impact. And save lots of time in the meantime. To help the show and get your 14-day free trial, follow the link in the show notes or by clicking on the banner on our homepage at theroadtrippingpodcast.com. We use them and think you should too. Join the hype today.
October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Increased awareness and early detection through regular screening has put breast cancer deaths on the decline. Research shows that screening with mammography can detect breast cancer early when it is most treatable. Women over 40 should schedule a mammogram today, and women of any age who are at high risk should talk to their doctors about when to start screening. For more information about mammography, breast cancer disease, screening, and treatment, visit radiologyinfo.org. If you'd like to support the cause, then please visit the Breast Cancer Research Foundation at bcrf.org. They are the highest-rated breast cancer organization in the United States, with an A ranking from Charity Watch.
Now, back to the show. It wasn't long before Faberge was appointed the appraiser of the Imperial court, which gave everyone else the formal notice that he was the favorite jeweler of the royal family. For the Gustave Faberge company, this added another level of prestige on top of what Carl had been working towards all along, and provided for an expansion into the markets of Moscow. The company just didn't make eggs, of course. They made silverware, jewelry, carved animals, and other trinkets, and sold them to all social-economic levels, from emerging middle class all the way to the Tsar. This meant that the firm was producing more that Faberge could oversee, even with the help of his younger brother, Agathon. So he established a system that maintained quality by establishing semi-independent workshops, each headed by a highly experienced workmaster, often from Finland. The workmasters hired and oversaw the craftsmen and took personal responsibility for the most important objects tasked to their shops. In fact, more than half of the Imperial eggs that were created carried the initials of Mikhail Perkin, one such workmaster. All designs were still provided by Faberge, of course, which was a brilliant move, as it allowed for him to spend more of his time growing the business and for specialization in his trade, instead of the fabrication of the pieces himself. What makes Faberge eggs unique and a cut above the competition is their enamel work. Enamel is applied by fusing a thin layer of powdered glass to a metal surface. It has to be heated to at least 600 degrees centigrade to become soft enough to work, and at that temperature, there's very little margin for error. When the metal surface is curved, such as with an egg, the complications become harder, and achieving a smooth finish requires phenomenal skill. At the time, most, if not all, jewelers that made enamel pieces only used 3 colors: pink, blue, and white. But Faberge used more than 100, allowing them to blow away the competition. Faberge was also very meticulous with tracking the time of tradesmen and workmasters, which he used to feed into his rates, ensuring he would make a profit with each piece that was created. This allowed for him to often undercut his competition. So basically, he would be delivering a superior product with superior choices of materials or under the cost of everyone else. Carl was also a stickler for the end quality of a piece. Yes, he trusted his workmasters, but at the end of it, it was his family name. So every morning at 10 a.m., Carl toured the workshops. Occasionally, he would examine an object that was nearly finished, put it on an anvil, and smash it with a hammer, adding the rebuke, "You can do better. Start again and do it right." No wonder the company continued to grow more popular.
Upon the death of Alexander III in 1894, his son Nicholas II became Tsar, and it worried Carl as a court supplier was always vulnerable to a regime change. One of his competitors had managed to secure a large commission that had gotten some rave reviews by members of the royal court. However, the new Tsar followed his father's tradition by commissioning eggs from Faberge, as well as expanding it by requesting that there be 2 eggs each year, one for his mother, who was eventually given a total of 30, and one for his wife, Alexandra, who received another 20. These eggs are distinguished from other jeweled eggs Faberge ended up producing by their designation as Imperial Easter eggs, or Tsar's Imperial Easter eggs. This is an important distinction because there were other eggs made for some select clients, including the Rothschilds, as well as Alexander Kelch, who had commissioned 12, but only 7 were made. The tradition by the Tsar, however, continued until the October Revolution in 1917, when the entire Romanov dynasty was executed, and the eggs and many other treasures were confiscated by the interim government. The final 2 eggs were never delivered nor paid for. The C. Faberge Company, as it was known at this point, was seized by the Bolsheviks, and the company was dissolved. Though he escaped Russia, Carl never recovered and died in Switzerland on September 24, 1920. Now, we didn't want to go into a lot of detail about the eggs themselves, because quite a few of them are still in existence and can be seen in photos online or in person. We just found them interesting and felt you may too. If you want to check them out in person, you actually have the opportunity. If you are in Russia, you can see 10 of them in the Kremlin Armory Museum. The 9 that are in the Faberge Museum, assuming Agent Dax secures Le Breton first. Outside of Russia, in the U.S., you can see 3 at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, 5 at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, 2 at the Hillwood Estates in Washington, D.C., 2 at the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore, and 1 in the Cleveland Museum of Art. If you're in Europe, you can see 3 at the Royal Collection in London, 1 in Monte Carlo, and 1 at the Faberge Museum in Baden, Germany. One that we know of that you can't see, but its location is known, is one that belongs to a former emir of Qatar. If you're counting, that total obviously isn't adding up to the total 52 known imperial eggs. There are 2 that are known to be in America, but were last seen in 1949. This may have been a part of the 14 that were sold by the new leaders of Russia sometime around the 1920s or 30s, when Russia's economy was tanking due to a famine. 8 others are known only through descriptions found in the royal archives. Keep your eyes open, because you never know where they might pop up. If you're lucky enough to find an authentic one, then you will easily become the next millionaire. Well, that's all the time we have for in this episode of the Road Tripping Podcast. But if you liked it and want to hear more, please subscribe to the show feed and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast directory. The more positive reviews we receive, the more trippers will be able to find us, and the faster we will grow, thus being able to bring you new content. Be sure to visit our website, theroadtrippingpodcast.com, that's tripping with a G, to keep updated on future shows, leave show suggestions, and to see all the ways to find and interact with us all in one place. If you're able and feeling generous, then a link to our Patreon page can be found under the support link on the homepage. We have been your hosts, Dean Ward and Molly Malloy, and the Road Tripping Podcast is recorded and produced at Before Midnight Studio. As always, until next we meet, stay safe, trippers.